Hi, Chris Duff over at Serious Land Capital, vacant land funding partner. Today wanted to update you all that we are about to go under contract with that large 50-acre parcel just south of DFW. I know I've mentioned it a number of times. Incredible deal that we were able to scoop up for about 400K earlier this year. Thought there was as much as like X gross margin potential because we divided it up into three roughly 16 and a half acre child parcels. When it was actually on market, it turned out that the child parcels didn't attract nearly as much interest as the parent parcel. So I know I remarked last week that there was actually a little bit more hair on the property. Once developer interest came in, it turns out the parcel was within the ETJ of Ennis, which was the closest city nearby, and water pipes were actually a couple inches smaller in diameter than we thought before. I mean, not major issues. Even if we had known that before closing, we still would have closed because the deal was still, very, very solid. Plus, again, we thought that it was going to be primarily child parcel interest, in which case those two issues would have been less relevant compared to, full parent parcel developer interest. But we were averaging a developer offer roughly every 7 to 10 days. And we found a very good group who is extremely active locally. And we were reviewing the offer. Key thing, and this is going to be over a X gross exit. It's going to take 120 days to close, possibly even a little bit longer. We wanted to make sure there was some incentive from if we did have to extend that, more of their EMD would go hard, which that is the case within the offer we received. But, that's just kind of the name of the game. Oftentimes, working with developer buyers is they need extra time to go through all the county and city approvals and so forth, especially when properties within an ETJ, just given the extra timeline and oftentimes costs associated with that. So that's just something else that we had to deal with. But we thought, especially in growing uncertain macroeconomy, that hey, taking a north of 2x exit, even if it this has been listed less than 2 months and it's presumably going to take 4 months to close, still an absolutely excellent return. Our net profit currently is calculating to be roughly $200,000 K investment. So, that will be a very nice chunk of change to return back. And again, uncertain macro and, very, very large property that we were looking to move. So that's kind of the bottom line there, is just we want to make sure that if we're going to sign something to get this thing off the market, we really, really want to be certain about the buyers. And initially we thought it was going to be a cash deal, but now they wanted to do conventional financing. So that's what I wanted to remark on a bit more today, is that they were looking to do 20% down and the rest finance conventionally. So from our end, we're like, that's okay, so long as we understand who's their lender, what their track record is, who's the actual person approving the loan within the lender organization, any steps involved within that to determine how long it might take to do so. Is there any pre-approval process that could be done even on behalf of an LLC? And so what these guys were doing is they currently have the contract, the buyer as a certain LLC, but they're going to be in the midst of forming a special purpose vehicle LLC, which we do routinely, that is going to be split between three different owners. And one of those owners is a very large contractor in the area that does a lot of the underground work for developers, or development projects rather. They've been in business over 30 years, and pretty much instantaneously when we were asking, hey, can we get contact info for the lender, any type of bank letter, etc., we got that within 24 hours from a regional bank, and they had said, yes, we work with this certain contractor group, or contracting group, routinely 6 or 7 projects in the past, no issue at all. And so I spoke then with that contact at the lender, and it's a family business, so he's like 5th generation. and I think the son of the current CEO of the business. He has direct oversight and decision making over which projects get approved, which financing is approved, the underwriting as well. So, sometimes at banks, the underwriting of the asset versus the actual financing component are going to be separate. So you want to understand that process as well whenever you're considering taking an offer, a large offer especially, with conventional financing. And usually financing side is going to be handled earlier in the process. Underwriting is, as you well know, if you've ever accepted an offer before with conventional financing, usually is like last minute. And that's usually what's holding up any deal from closing. The fact that we have the financing and underwriting side in a smaller regional bank handling this makes me think it's going to be a lot smoother. And this contact at the lender is like, these guys are very, very solid. I mean, he said, there's already tacit approval in place. Like he's the approval process anyway, so you can't ask for anything better there. And that, even though these guys are going to be financing here, like if they had to close cash, they could do the whole thing, 100% of the deal in cash, and certainly the 20% down that they were looking for on this deal. And it's nearly $1 million deal. So, that helps a lot just to understand, okay, these guys are super solid financially, done multiple projects successfully, no issues with paying back any loans. Plus, this is on the smaller side of projects that they've done. They might be able to put 30 or 40 lots on the property that we have, but they routinely do 50 to like 300 lot projects. So they've handled all those successfully. So I feel even better being on the smaller side with their ability to pay off the loan that they were seeking, and that the financing is already guaranteed from the primary decision maker at the lender. So that was just another question outside of it, even outside the financing component is for whatever that down payment's going to be, like figure out who's paying the equity into that down payment. Do they already have those cash reserves on hand? Can we get any proof of funds related to that? Again, especially for these larger deals, you just want to line up as much as possible. Okay, who is responsible for paying all the various components of the deal to ensure that you take a 4-month close to the finish line, that you're not going to have any additional surprises. And then, understanding, okay, who is the primary money partner who's going to be involved in the deal. In this case, it was this contractor group who has primarily managed many of these projects in the past. They have a working relationship with the other individuals involved in the deal who all handle different components. And so we feel better, okay, this is like an established third party versus whoever the principal in the deal is, like trying to spin up a separate LLC to raise the funds on themselves. That we would feel less comfortable with versus an established company who's done this before. So that was another key part of our due diligence. So all those questions were asked. They passed with flying colors. They weren't trying to hide back any information or anything. All this was produced very quickly. Our broker had extensive conversations with the buyers as well too. He had a good sense for them. I didn't detect any kind of shady business and so forth as well. So ultimately, we are in the midst of getting the offer ready to be signed today. But hopefully some of these items in our own DD process for assessing buyer capability, especially when it comes to financing, helps you when you consider your own offers as well and not to get stuck in a sticky situation. With that, seriousland.capital for any of your funding needs. Check out our Facebook group, Land Daily Diligence, for zero cost review of your land deals, and landpricer.ai. Got even a lot more beta feedback recently, making significant updates to the software here this week and next week, certainly, and looking forward to smoothing out the user experience even more. Subscribe and share. Get Serious Podcast. Thanks for checking in with this one. See you next time. Take care. Bye.